Jennifer O'Brien Show. I am your host, Jennifer O'Brien. I am so excited. Look at what we got going on today in the studio. Can I call this room a studio
Yes.
now? Oh, my word. Okay. Oh, my word. Heaven to Betsy. I got my friend Shannon Wymer from Detroit.
Come on
right?
now.
Michigan
Detroit,
gal.
Rock City.
Yeah. Oh, my word. Yeah. So you guys say that a lot, don't you?
Motown, baby, all the way.
All the way. So
We got soul.
You do have soul. So welcome back, because this is not your first time on the podcast, but it's your first time in studio. Yeah.
Thank you for having me back. It's really exciting. It's always exciting to sit down with Miss Jennifer and have some conversations. I love our conversations.
Yeah.
We get into good stuff on the phone and when we talk.
We go deep.
And I love just sharpening and sharing, and hopefully this will bless whoever else
Whoever
hears this, because
joins.
God uses us all for his glory, right?
That's right. So Shannon and I, we sell the patches together, the X39, who sponsors the show, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, just because they are our sponsor today. But so because of that, she's got your patch on. Mine's on my leg. But we just get on the phone, just because we talk about a lot of other things, and our conversations go so deep, and they're so rich, and we've been through some stuff, I was just thinking, I know we've been doing the patches for 3.5 years, but I think I officially met you on the side of 285.
You did.
With the truckers. Yeah. We were holding up some signs.
Showing up in all the Patriot things.
Yeah.
With the dresses and the fun, you and your sister. And
Yeah.
it was, I remember the first time I saw you,
Yeah.
both of you, I'm like, oh, these girls are going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're going to have some good times.
Yeah.
Rooting on. Yeah, the truckers were coming through, because that was when
The convoy.
the whole convoy and the everything that was coming from Canada and across America, and gotta love our freedoms, right? And I just remember there were so many people there, but y'all took the cake.
My
Hands
sister and
down.
I, we like to do that. We like to show up at events and make it all about us.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, what are people here for? Oh, the truckers? Nah, they're here for us. Let's end 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And scene. And when we
I think
leave.
y'all had a wig on, too.
Robin,
Didn't you have, like, a big
so
afro?
yeah, Robin, we had this big red afro wig. She put it on. She said I looked cool like Nashville, and she was Macon. Not so cool. She had the big afro and the silliness, but I was looking like I looked good, cool good.
Yeah.
And but now we had
The
a good time.
truckers were honking for sure.
We got some honks on 285. There was a good group of us, and I met a few people, but you were definitely one. And then we got to talking about some stuff that you do here in our county, Cherokee. The rest is really history. From that night on, I got connected with you and some of the nonprofits, because you've done a lot of work. So let's just talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some other stuff.
Yeah, I think the coolest part, when I really got to know you, one of the coolest things I saw you do, we both did an event together, and they tasked you with running the green room.
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know, when you have an event, you typically have a person who will take the speakers from the green room, and bring them to the stage, or keep them on time, keep things moving. And man, you were so much fun, because whenever you can throw some Jennifer O'Brien comedy in there, you get some. It was just really cool to see you work and see you mingle with the people and just shine a light and have a lot of fun in deep topics. I mean, we're talking about some heavy stuff.
Oh yeah.
Especially at the height of, that was 2001, I think, when we
2020. Wait,
was 2022.
2022.
It was 2022. Yeah. So
that was. Yeah, you're right. We did, and I think that's maybe where we reconnected.
Yeah.
From there, not knowing I'd run into you again, something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of, I'd have to go back and see.
We had met and I think seen each other in a few different other places, but that was the moment. I think we exchanged phone numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to hang with this girl. Like we're doing some things. What are you doing? Oh, what are you doing?
We're going to try to save the world together.
Yeah.
And
I mean, why wouldn't we? We're pretty fantastic, right?
I know, right?
And it needs saving, clearly.
Yeah, clearly. So very interesting. So from there, I got to know you. You have a nonprofit still going here in Cherokee County.
Two of them.
Talk about that.
So we do Take Action Cherokee, which Take Action Cherokee was really started to bring the grassroots together, the leads of all the different grassroots throughout the state of Georgia, some of them also national. And we just saw a need to put people together really for action during legislative session. You know, every state has 40 days where they go into session to write laws, change laws. And I had no idea how many of those, I mean, you're talking 3,000 to 4,000 bills that hit the floor in 40 days. Well, there's no way the people don't read all the bills. And it's so they're voting on things they don't see. And we're kind of seeing the result of that now. We didn't know what we didn't know back then. But bringing the grassroots together in a way to come to the Dome, come to our elected officials, come as grassroots, as a body that we're called to be, right? Bringing them together for action, to let the people's voice actually be heard. And it really started yielding a lot of fruit when we saw some pretty, I think it was 2023 when we really hit legislative session that year, and we saw so many bills coming out, and we're just like, what? This is not the America that we know. But we all showed up together as, well, I'm kind of covered in the spirit right now, showed up together as, you know, one body, and we stopped a lot of really just freedom stripping bills, for bills that would have taken freedoms away, not just from us, but from our future generations. And it just kind of dominoed. And then we started trying to get the right people in office and get the word out, the truth, help educate people on what's really happening. Because I didn't know. I mean, total disclosure to the world. When I jumped in 2021 and really started looking and seeing, maybe even 2020, I guess at the height of our pandemic, if you will, that we saw, I didn't even understand that each state had its own constitution, what our duty was, not just, I mean, for God and country, right? You know, the Lord tells us to stand on the pillar of government, not on the pillar of politics. And I think we get swept up in politics. But so learning all that was pretty incredible. And then we did a really amazing event together to unite and kind of come out and let people know who we are. The Georgia Unite Conference was pretty incredible. And we had Katie Hopkins come from the UK, and Trevor Loudon, we brought him in from New Zealand. And, you know, gosh, Tom Holman, who's our current director of ICE again, was there and spoke. And I think Katie took the show, though. She's great. She was hilarious.
Yeah, she's so funny.
Yeah.
She's just, she's fun to watch.
She is.
Certain people, I'm just going to watch you.
Yeah.
You know, and
you learn so much from someone who
Mm-hmm.
makes it easy to listen to, because these are heavy topics, right? That we didn't know. And like you, she'll put comedy in it to get the word across. So it was great. Well, after a few years of doing that, we realized there was a greater need to bring our communities back together on a smaller local scale. You know, one of the things I think we've seen, call it the enemy, call it whatever you want to call it. It really ripped whatever happened during the pandemic, whether it was the goal or not the goal. The result was a lot of neighbors wouldn't talk to each other anymore. They'd tattle on each other.
Yeah.
Or people forgot how to be a community again.
Sure.
And we're called to be a body together, to support each other. You know, I didn't know this, but if you go to like these, you know, preparation for survival in case something crazy happens. Anytime we've gone to those classes and someone from Special Forces stands up and says, okay, what's the number one thing you need? And that if there's a case of an emergency, you know, people say water and food and maybe, you know, something to defend yourself. And nobody said the answer, and it was community.
Amen.
It's really what we need.
Yeah.
So community resilience was birthed out of that.
Okay.
With a concept of really taking neighborhoods and helping them identify who's in your neighborhood. You know, Mr. Rogers showed up and said, who are the people in my neighborhood?
Wait a
and boy, he
second.
had it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we built that with an understanding of, do you really know who's in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Because if something happens, you know, we're good friends, but we don't live in the same
Right,
neighborhood. So could I get to you? Could you get to me? You know,
Right.
So
Well, you know, it's funny that we're kind of landing here a little bit, because, you know, when 2020 happened, I really felt God talking to me a lot about community. And the longer we've been removed from that, the more, like you said, I think it's important to know who your neighbors are. We've got some great ladies that live across the street. They pack heat and all that. So I was always like, something goes down, y'all, I'm coming over.
that's my people.
But yeah, it's always like to know who's got your back, or not even that, like, who's the elderly woman living by herself?
Exactly.
And to be honest, I still don't know everybody in my neighborhood. And that's, that's my own, I can only blame myself. I know enough people, but I don't know everybody. And something I'd like to get back to, but I know the importance of being in community because no man's an island. We were never meant to do, like you said, God didn't, he created the body of Christ because it's like, hey, work together. Don't try to isolate.
Yeah.
And sometimes I watch those I used to be obsessed with the prepper shows, and it's always like the guy living off the grid by himself and he's thriving. The guy's freaking thriving. But I'm like, well, good for you. That you're thriving out in the middle of nowheres and you know how to do all these things because you've got some training.
How does that help me?
Yeah, how's that helping me? I guess I could watch some of your videos and learn. But then I always think too, like when I would hear people about like bug out bags and be ready to fly and gas up your, I always thought, what if you're like visiting your grandma and you don't have your stuff or, and I know they'd be like, you always prepare, but it's like, to me, it's like I started really realizing I'm relying on all these efforts to save myself and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Better to need it and not have it or have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's it. But I kept trying to prep food in my garage. Started in 2020. I was like, it's going down. I've been made for this moment. And my inner Jazz Freebird's like, okay, I've been waiting for this time. My wounded inner child family system was the survival stuff was very I got that down. But I kept getting moths to come in and destroy all my food.
Oh, wow.
And that happened 2 years in a row. I couldn't figure out. And of course, now I know how to do it properly. Mm-hmm. But the last time I probably threw away about maybe over $1,000 worth of food because I wasn't doing it right. And I felt God's like, basically put your faith in me, not your stockpiles. And it was probably by design that it was all just going to the pot, but it just shifted something in my thinking. Like, what am I doing? I got a little weird.
Yeah. I think we all got a little weird.
I did. I got a little.
Here's how weird. Yeah. I have a great story that happened in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
That kind of showed me how weird we got. And it's like humanity has hit this point of we're no longer humane. We've stripped so much of the humanity out of humanity that we forget how to take care of each other, that we're actually called to be a body together. Yeah. So if you're preparing for something and I'm preparing for something, it's great, like you said, if you're ready, but what's the point if your neighbor is starving?
Yeah,
exactly. And we have this older gentleman in our neighborhood, retired military. He still works on occasion, but his grass had gotten really tall, and he collects those guys that collect the metal, the scrap metal, and then they take it all in one. When the price peaks, they take it and get the top price.
The money,
and he had been storing, and he came down with pneumonia, and I knew that because we speak, even though he lives down the way a little bit. Well, his neighbor directly next to him, didn't knock on the door and see how he's doing. Called the police and reported him for having a eyesore in the neighborhood. So my city police came and knocked on his door and served him basically a citation saying you have to take care of this. And I was livid. I called the police station. I said, look, that's my neighbor. Instead of knocking on his door and serving him a citation, how about you knock on my door and tell him he needs us? And we will go help him. Because that's actually community. Nobody should ever have to suffer. I mean, he had pneumonia for 2 weeks. Yeah. And he served our country.
Right.
So that was kind of the moment where, like you go through these phases, these growth things that happen. I think everything happens to us for a reason, of course. You had your garage 2 months of moths and money to get you through your season. That was the moment I realized, what are we doing to actually help each other survive the moments, not the tragedies that we think are coming? You know what I mean?
Say that again.
I just got covered.
You got to say it again.
Say it again. What are we doing to help each other survive the moment right now? Wow. Not just preparing to survive a moment that hasn't even happened yet.
Amen.
And so I called. He had told me this because he drives, passes my house, and I'm like, oh, that's unacceptable. And immediately the bond in our neighborhood increased tenfold because now we're going to bat. And the city did pull back the citation.
Good.
And apologized.
Wow.
And they said, you're right, we should have knocked on the door and asked him what he needed before we did that. I said, because what kind of community do we want to be known to be? Do we want to be known that we're just law and order? Or that we actually care about each other and support each other? Because, one day that might be your dad.
That's right.
That gets the citation.
That's right.
And then he calls you to take care of it because you're an officer, but it never should have happened in the first place. What precedent are we setting for the next generation?
That's so good.
So much changed in that moment for me personally. Growth became, learning and community became more about growing in how I handle situations. Because I might not have handled that 100% the right way when I picked up the phone and said, hey, listen, to the city officials. But it sparked this conversation of, let's do better.
Yeah. And
let's become better.
And I think what you're saying, it's like, I love that line because it did feel like very isolating, even though I had friends and I spent a lot of time on the internet, and I got very isolated in my thinking, where it was about, I got to make sure I'm taken care of, and what about my kids, and can I get to them if something big? And it was just this constant state of I'm ready for the shoe to drop, or I'm waiting for it. But meanwhile, life is happening around me. But kind of going back to community, that I saw, not only were we dealing with let's get to know our neighbors. I think a lot of the division was starting online, when you were starting to see the division between how people were approaching the pandemic and how we were, vaccinating or not vaccinating. And I started seeing just the rip of families, and we're talking family events and gatherings that didn't happen, or certain people weren't included. And it felt like it was real. Like, as much as I like to keep the past in the past, which we don't need to steer down the barrel of the gun or in the rear view all day, but let's talk, because it almost feels like culture wants to say, well, just forget it happened and move on. But it's like, well, that really did happen. Like, people were divided in my family, I'm sure yours, and people took sides, and I just did my best to, I already had my convictions before a pandemic, and they've stayed the same before, during, and after about how I feel about a lot of things. Nothing really shifted. I just woke up to a lot of more corruption, things I didn't really know were going on. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to pay better attention next time. But so speak, if you can, if there's anything, like, just now that we're bringing up community and that divisiveness that we saw kind of break out, like, there was something you said about being in that and being in the community versus just that isolating, like, not just physically there for people, but like, let's talk about the emotional,
the mental,
and the mental,
Well, and I think it's so good that you're going here, because I think this comes to where we've gotten today for a lot of us, right? I think COVID and the whole pandemic and the concept of that, it trained us or conditioned us to start talking about what we didn't, oh, you don't agree with me. Oh, you think that way. Well, I think this way. So maybe we shouldn't be friends. Maybe we shouldn't talk. Maybe I don't even want to deal with that. And we've really lost, again, the humanity side of having conversations. And what's fascinating in the whole grand experiment of just life is that we forget that we have a choice. We get to choose. We get to choose inside of us if we want to shove our opinion down someone's throat and tell people what they need to know, or listen and wait for that window for them to ask. And that's kind of where I feel personally my freedom's coming right now. Like, I've been in that season where I stand there at the board meetings and I'm like, listen, y'all need to do this. I've stood there, obviously called the officer and said, you need to do this different, but we became, I feel like we almost became we had to choose a side. And really the sides are designed for us to choose, but this isn't a game of football. This isn't a game of baseball where you pick a side. We're supposed to be the referee in general. We're supposed to be comfortable and confident enough and free inside ourselves, not bound by our own crap, if you will, that we're living through, that we can help others find their freedom. And you can't do that if you're picking a side to root for.
Yeah.
You know, the Romans were really smart, and when the people started wanting to overthrow the kingdom, if you will, they built a Colosseum. And they did that to distract people and entertain them, to give them the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
Even though they were actually being more and more and more suppressed.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of where we've gotten, it's where I see a lot of us today. It's where I was stuck in anyway. I don't really know what other people, can't speak for anybody else other than this homegirl. Yeah. But, you know, I'm trying to work it out. But I realized instead of choosing a side, I have to choose how I'm going to respond in my everyday scenario. If I'm talking to someone, especially during right now in Georgia, because now this Detroit girl lives in Georgia. That's how we met.
That's right.
But being in this season, we have so many, it's primary season, right? So we're in this season where a lot of elected officials, new people are trying to get in. People are not happy with what's going on. Their taxes are increasing. No one can afford food like they used to. Luxuries have become a distant memory for many people. And people are just really looking for some kind of freedom. Just something that they can have control over. And the most important thing that we have to do is when I'm in this season of primary, when you have a candidate or you have someone, you're going to a forum, you're trying to figure out who you want to vote for, if you will, right? Do you get stuck in that game where you're choosing a side? Or do you actually try to understand if anybody's following the rules? Because you can win a game and break all the rules. It doesn't mean you won the game, right? But I don't really know where that rabbit hole came into, other than to just kind of bring it back into, if we want to be a community that works together, that supports each other, that actually flourishes the way we were intended to, we have to go to self first. We have to really check what's inside of us, what we're looking at. And we've talked a lot about that lately. That's kind of where our conversations have shifted from.
I think I think there was a time and place to pay attention, to kind of listen. I remember when the pandemic was like really kind of, you know, cooking, and I was doing recovery work, and then I was like, well, shoot, should I focus on the new traumas that are happening now, or do we work with the old traumas? And then I just kind of abandoned recovery work for a couple years. Just, you know, don't recommend it. But and now, of course, I'm back working on recovery, which is so important, because I think what happens is it's the battles that are outside of me. They're there. They've always existed. But I don't think I'm as effective until I've dealt with my own, you know, battles within, because I think what happens is, it's easy. It's like if you get on the internet, like there's so many people that are shouting, you know, to the other side, and people stay so consumed with the back and forth and all this rhetoric that's so divisive. And yet I'm like, man, have they done the work on themselves yet? Because I wonder if they'd be so passionately yelling and tearing down the other person if they've spent some time examining the plank in their eye.
Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking of that scene from Karate Kid where the whole point of the lesson is if you're too distracted by what's going on outside of you, right, and you're getting into a battle, if you're so worried and if you're coming at it at that duel, if you will, in anger, well, you can't focus on how to respond or react to the punches that are being thrown your way, right? Because you're so consumed with the hatred. I mean, any person and any kind of, I mean, anything that you try to do, if you're being run by the emotional state of frustration, anger, division, whatever you want to call it that comes into you, do you really have the ability to contribute something that's going to benefit the whole situation if you're just so consumed and engulfed by the madness, the darkness, the pieces that are going, like the world that's going on around you? Like we have to find our grounding and our center. And I just don't think we were created to live in this, like, you're great, but I don't like how you feel about this. So
I feel like it's false identity. I feel like it's just, I think the
That's
enemy
a good
does
one. Yeah.
he does
Identity.
a good job at keeping us busy to fight the wrong battles.
Yeah. There you
and
go.
then
Say that again.
you become you're bankrupt on the inside, and there's nothing left to give. But oh great, I made a point there. And I think, like you said, it's like nobody wants to be shouted at, and if that really worked, if the device, and if picking sides and everybody doing, if that really worked, then why are we still where we're at, as a culture and as a people? I just find it, I'm less and less interested. I'm going back to my first love, Christ, and just like, man, the government's on his shoulders, God, what do you want me to know about this? And not, and you know what, I don't want to go to another extreme where I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna vote. I'm not gonna show up. I'm so disenfranchised by the swamp system, which I still see playing out in front of me, that I'm like, does it matter? Am I too consumed? And I've really, I've been focusing so much on, my own recovery, that I've really purposefully turned a lot off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be there when I'm ready. And if God ever says, yeah, go back over there, and this is how we're going to do it. But I'll tell you, it's a shift that I'm like, I know I've had to recover from going through. Hey, congratulations. If you're listening to this podcast, you survived a global pandemic. I mean, let's pat ourselves here.
You got a medal that you can pick that up at the, at the post office box, your PO box has your award.
I mean, and let's kind of give, I think 6 years, it's been 6 years since. So it's like, I think there's got to be a season where we can like talk about it and process some of the things we've all gone through.
Yeah.
And, come out on the other side learning from it.
Yeah. Well, we get to come out of this with wisdom, or we get to come out of it as a victim of it. And, we're not called to sit in this mentality of, oh my gosh, poor me. I mean, I feel terrible. I was just talking about this morning. I feel terrible for the kids who they were in high school and they didn't get to do the things that, the experiences I remember having as a senior. They didn't get that.
Yeah.
But are they going to walk around as a victim of the fact that they didn't have that? Or do you take it in stride and go and be the light, be the contribution that you were created to be? And I think that's the grand scheme of it all, right? Like the Lord tells us that we're called to live in the world, but not of it. And we have to stay grounded in where we are in ourselves in order to get there. But it's like, I just want to go back to something that you said, because I have struggled with where I fit into the political arena now also. Because I'm like, once you get it's kind of like when you go to church and you see what's behind the curtain, you're like, oh, everybody's human here. Like there's nobody who actually has all of their crap together. Like we're all just learning and growing. And, politics is like that way too. Government, anybody, we put this grand expectation on people when they get into office to do all this for us. And on some levels, yes, you took a job, I expect you to do it. But the reality is that the job is supposed to, the job of ensuring the future of the country and the next generations was given to us. So what does that look like now, where you're walking into what is a broken system?
Right.
I mean, we know that. Like,
Lord,
so much was exposed. Gosh, don't even get me started on what's in the schools and what we're seeing there. But ultimately, no matter where you go, it goes right back to community. It goes right back to yourself. It goes right back to your family. What are you doing in your home, in your house, within you? Are you a person who is a victim of the world that you live in? Or are you doing the self-healing, the recovery work? Because you don't have to be someone who's addicted to alcohol or any drugs or anything to totally botch in life, like totally screw it up. Like I've had seasons of intense reward and victory because I felt like I was doing it right. And then I've had seasons where I was so blinded by what I was doing that I missed everything around me. Right. So do we go into this next season of, I keep hitting the microphone, sorry. Do we go into the next season of whatever this is for us as patriots, as people who want to be involved in our country and our community, as people who are telling everyone how to do it this way? Or do we go into it saying, what do you think is a good idea? Do we go into it open-minded and healed enough with our own stuff, that we're
Right.
actually creating solutions instead of contributing to the problem. More division, more this. Now
Right.
there's standards and there's lines,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
The 10 Commandments were written for a reason. That was our boundaries and our guide. Do you know something totally side note off topic?
Yeah.
Because that's how we roll around here. That's how our conversations go, y'all. Keep up. Sorry, no, but do you know the 10 Commandments? Have you ever looked at it this way? Jesus came and he said, love thyself, love thy neighbor as thyself, right? So love God, love your neighbor. Those are the two
Greatest commandments. That's right.
greatest commandments he gave. But if you take the commandments and split them in half, the first 5 are love God, the last 5 are love your neighbor. And if we could just, and I know not everybody watching this might not have that relationship with the Lord, but if we could just break it down to being that simple,
Right.
love God, love your neighbor.
Yeah.
You can't love your neighbor until you know how to love yourself. Because how do you love your neighbor as yourself if you don't know how to love yourself, right? You
Yeah.
have to understand that, not in a conceited way, but all of this ties back to really being the playbook that our country was founded on. It was built on that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really know how I rabbit holed into that scenario.
It's designed. It's the country's designed to work if we're a moral people, and we're seeing such a divide
Now we're
right
getting
now.
comfortable.
But get cozy. But now and here's the thing, like kind of going back to the, let's land on the 2 greatest commandments, because I think first, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and so it's like God's like, I want everything. Like don't come with your 80%, 99.9. Like I want all of it. Jesus, like, you follow me, you just go ahead and die to yourself, because and the reason I believe part of that, especially as followers, is that there will be a bounty on your head paid for by the enemy. And so if your kids come before God, or your marriage, or whatever, your career, the enemy will pay for it because he wants you back in his camp.
Yeah.
But the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think what I've noticed, and I'll speak for myself, is we are definitely in 2026, a lot of people don't have any problem knowing that they've messed up, or that they're flawed, or that they have challenges. I think most people are somewhat aware that there are those tapes playing, that there is that, especially Christians. I think we get hit the most with that kind of warfare. And the enemy, my gosh, he does not fight fair. So he comes quickly in childhood to start the lies and the messaging and the programming, so that he will gain access to us. And sometimes he doesn't come back for that till years later, right? He'll use other events to trigger initial
He's
traumas.
sneaky that way.
Oh gosh.
He'll pull up something that happened when you were like 4, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
that was that. What is it? Hebrews 12 or 15:12 or 12:15. I think it's 12:15.
Yeah.
Talking about the bitter root
Oh, come on,
that
talk
grows
about
up
that.
in you, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where I love where you're going with this, because this is something we don't talk nearly enough about. All those things that started so long ago that grow up as a bitter root inside of us, that come into this. They really mold who we are in the good ways, but really these habits, these performance, this over functioning concept of, we feel like we have to, society pushes us to do so much just to feel like we're valued, to feel like we're validated, to feel like we're accepted. And at the end of the day, if we're trying to walk into anything, through anything in life, with this understanding of what our 4-year-old self thought was what we were supposed to do, like what are we really doing? You know what I mean? We're a bunch of
Adult children
walking around looking for something to do.
Guilty.
Right?
Yeah.
Me too. So I'm really, I love that you kind of went in this direction, because I feel like it's really something that we don't talk nearly enough about. If we want to have wholeness and community and families that are put back together, and damage that maybe has been done because we haven't dealt with that little girl or little boy that's inside us.
That's right.
That was so hurt, and we talk about our feelings all the time, but we don't talk about how it got there, the why.
Right.
And how to, you don't walk in a garden and say, oh, there's weeds in there, I wonder what I'm supposed to do. Well, you go pull them out.
Right.
And then your garden looks better and you get more fruit. But how often do we look inside and say, maybe I should, maybe I should look at myself and do better instead of being so worried about what everybody else is doing wrong.
That's
Benjamin
good.
Franklin, forgot about this quote, but I used to say it all the time. He wrote these, I think it was, gosh, it's been a minute since 15 or 30 things about himself, character flaws that he had that he wanted to work on. And he would go every week, he'd spend his time on that one. And then he'd go to the next one. And he'd go to the next one. And for the rest of his life, when he got to the end of his list, I think it was actually 20. When he got to the end of those 20, he'd go right back to number one. And he spent the rest of his life knowing that he had these things inside him that he had to do better. And he would cycle it. Well, Benjamin Franklin was not the person that we now celebrate to be. He wasn't that person when he was living in Europe. He was the guy that nobody wanted to talk to. And this is back before you had paved roads, right? So if people crossed the street to get away from you, it was really noticed and insulting because they didn't have concrete or streets. So your shoes got dirty.
Yeah.
And you really only had like one or two pair of good shoes. So if your shoes got dirty, that was a statement. So if you were trying to get away from someone and you were willing to dirty your great, beautiful shoes that you have one or two pairs of, it really stood out. Well, he started noticing it happen to him more and more.
Wow.
People would walk away from him, and he asked a good friend of his to be honest. Tell me what it is about my character that makes people cross the street to get away from me. And it's so beautiful to think that because he decided to take the time to do that work, that he became one of the most vital founding fathers that we had for this country. Benjamin Franklin is actually the person who, I didn't know this, but I love learning things as we go, right? He was the person out of all the clergy and all the people that were in that constitutional Congress that was created to write our Constitution. He was the man who said, maybe we should pray and bring this to God.
Amen.
After 40 days in the blistering heat, and that was back when they wore all wool clothing and all that, not finding solutions. So it was because he decided to better his character, to pull out his bitter roots.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and I love to hear that because I think it's so important to know thyself, like to know who you really are, because I think the enemy who wars against us knows exactly who we are. He knows your strengths. He knows your weaknesses. And if you're walking around with like blinders on and you don't realize like, hey, I have triggers. I have things that I'm still working towards. And I think that's where the pride can get in sometimes. And of course, nobody wants to sit on their problems. Nobody wants to admit their faults. But I think by doing so and understanding like, here's where I'm working at, and growing it, I think it makes great sense. And in fact, I don't really want to do too much with people that don't know, that haven't done the work and haven't spent the time. It's not that I won't love them and I can encourage them, but it's like there seems to be this disconnect if like you don't, if you don't walk around knowing that there are that you have a soft underbelly, or that you may have some things in you that need to be get it in the light, keep working at it, bring discipline into that area, whether it's emotional, mental, spiritual. I just think there's such and culture obviously will feed you so many distractions and busyness to make you think you're doing great, but it's like, are you working on the right things?
Yeah.
So
well, and I would even ask you, being a person who went through your own walk of recovery, and now you help people find recovery, like that is like, what does that mean for the people that you get to help walk through it? Like, isn't that ultimately what we're designed to do?
Well, that's the plank. You work on the plank in your eye, and then you can help see the speck in your brother's eye, and you can be like, hey, let me help you with that speck. Yeah. Versus, oh, now I'm going to be sitting on my high horse and I got rid of my plank, and let me just judge everybody for being,
Right.
So I think it's really part of, I think, what we're supposed to do while we're here. I don't think we're supposed to be down here on this earth and just sit back. I mean, there's two things God's not thrilled about, cowardness and laziness. And, I think he's like, get discipline, get to work. work at it. Okay, well then work again. And it's like, of course I want to see I'd love all my weaknesses just to disappear overnight. But then it's like, well, then why did Jesus come filled with grace and truth? I mean,
so
grace
good.
is on the table for us. It's like, even if I'm sure Benjamin Franklin still died with weaknesses. He still had
100%.
flaws, right? We're all going to still die with weaknesses
We
and flaws.
we bring those up now, right? No.
But exactly right. Now we just put them under a microscope for those things. But it's like, it's not going to necessarily go away, but there's grace. It's like, that's as believers, God already, he's like, I got it. I'm making you this way. I mean, nobody in this life is just completely strong 100% of the time. And if they are, that's called delusional.
Yeah.
And they're living in a place called denial.
Yeah.
And most other people see it, and nobody wants to be around that person, because you're just
So
like,
good.
oh Lord, I can't.
100%.
I got to get away from that.
When you said something like cowardice and laziness, if those are the two things that the Lord, and it's all throughout the Bible, it's not just New Testament, it's Old Testament, it's just period, right? So if you're afraid to admit that you need work done in yourself, if you're afraid to admit that there's a better version of you out there, you won't go after it.
Yeah.
And if you're too lazy, laziness is not taking a day of sabbatical where you don't actually have to work. Laziness, there I go again, talking with my hands hitting the microphone. Laziness is getting to that place where you just don't care to deal with it because you don't wanna.
Yeah.
And you opt out, you choose to not do it. And really that's, I feel that's how we got to where we are as a country.
Yeah.
We chose laziness. We decided that we were going to pay someone else to take our responsibility for us. And now here we come, we're like, wait a minute, but you didn't do it the way we said you didn't do it the way we wanted you to do it. So now let's bash you for it. Like, come on, like where's our responsibility in this, and
That's good.
it's incredible what happens when you do start to want that freedom that isn't just about the flag or about the Constitution.
Yeah.
You start to see a freedom that comes from a different place, or you're hungry for this at least I did. I was starving for a Holy Spirit encounter. I was starving for an answer that I couldn't find in a book other than the Word, right? The Bible. I don't consider that a book. I consider that divine inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was looking in all these places for answers. I was busying and performing and doing all these things to keep myself busy, to validate who I am and why, and justify why I feel the way that I do. But in the inside, I'm like, something just still isn't clicking. Something isn't whole. I don't have this freedom that I hear so many people talk about.
Yeah.
How do I get that? How do I get to that place? And you and I actually had a conversation like a year ago, I think, about something like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's what's my identity and what's my ownership in this that allows me to get to a place where I can actually be what I was created to be, to resolve some of these things I see happening in our country, in our community, in my family, in my friends, in my business,
It's funny because it's, your passion for freedom and doing all that I saw you do since I've met you in 2022, 23, 24, and even to this day, you're still working in the freedom realm of nonprofit, but how you kind of realize, and you're landing the plane with like, wait, it's this personal freedom. Yeah. It's this it's being delivered out of these generational curses and bondages and things that have been on the inside. And I always wonder, like, was it always God's plan to take that passion for freedom and say, okay, here's my daughter. She's so passionate out here helping all these people. And I don't think it would be the loving father that he truly is if he didn't at some point let you encounter, let's get freedom on the inside of you. Let's get freedom on some of these things that this weight you've been carrying on the inside of all this unhealed, untreated stuff. So let's park it here for a minute, because this is where I could just
it's juicy.
Because I've gone through deliverance, because it was new to me and it still is, and I'm believing it, and I'm learning to continue to renounce, break agreements, all these things, and cast out demons and get all this activity and get the squatters off of us and out of our bloodlines.
I love that, squatters. I love
taking it to the courts of heaven. And I believe in that now. And I believe that's where the battle it's where it starts, where it's going to finish, and where it really plays out. And then God might say, okay, now go out here. And as we get that freedom, we want to go help others get that kind of freedom. But I kind of want to ask you, like, because that's where you and I have been doing, I know you're doing a lot of inner healing work right now. And talk a little bit about how that kind of came about. And did you even expect that to kind of be a twist that
Oh, not at all. I felt like I had it all together. I literally today and yesterday, I'm like, when did all this fall apart? Like, when did I not become this, warrior princess that I've been from? Like, where did she go? And what I realized is it was an easy mask to put on to deny what I was actually going through inside. And when you do that for so long, you can't stop what's in you. Like, it's going to come out. I say this all the time to people. Whatever you do in the shadows, the light will hit it eventually, and it will come out. And whether you choose to deal with it or not is your choice. Yeah. But, we've seen it happen in the country, but now when we break that down, performance is something I've really been learning more about, right? Like, I have a very interesting past in childhood. I don't even know if this is just to kind of, I'm not going to go into details, but at a young age, my mother is loving, and her and I are very close. She's my dearest best friend, but she didn't know what to do with me. I had a lot of anger as a young teenager, 13, 14. A lot of things that were coming up in me that I didn't know what to do with, and she didn't know what to do with me to help me get through it. So she gave guardianship of me to the state. So I was raised by the state. Wow. In places that people don't even know are real. So the things that you see and the things that you walk through. And at some point, I learned very young that if I do all these things that they tell me to, I can get this, or I can leave, or I can get to this next level of freedom. So I associated my freedom with performing so that people would love me, performing so that people would see me as the good little girl that I am, and then I could get to that. But inside, not knowing that there was this bitter root that was growing up inside me. And Jesus warns us of that all the time. That's the enemy. That's what you were talking about earlier, how the enemy comes in and he sees those intricacies of who we are, that it masquerades. So you put on this mask, and you do it in the name of Jesus. You do it in the name of freedom. You do it in the name of being a great mom. You do it in the name of being an incredible business owner and strong person. And I got this, I'm independent. I'm a single mom. I'm paying my bills. I have an incredible career. But inside, people start to see, the walls start to crumble. Yeah. And people start to see. And when the cracks of, call it Holy Spirit, start to shine through the cracks in the wall that's crumbling, you can either feel like you're blinded and you're scared and you don't want to deal with it at all and go back to that coward, lazy scenario. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to just have to sit in it for a minute, and I'm going to have to let some healing go. Healing happen so I can let these things go. Yeah. And that's where I never realized that pride isn't like, oh yeah, I'm all that in a bag of Doritos, though we joke and say that all the time, and the dip, and pride is actually when I feel I have to perform to get you to look at me a certain way, because it's really all about how I feel you think about me. That's pride. That's a miserable way to live.
That's very miserable.
And how many times do we get stuck in that unintentionally? Like, I'm not trying to go out there and be a person who creates these scenarios that are uncomfortable for people, or ultimately damage maybe relationships or whatever. But it's that little girl inside me who trained herself so young to perform for a result. But the beauty is there really is freedom. Yes. We have some incredible people in our life, because we also do business together now. And, if y'all ever want to learn more about yourself, do a network marketing company, right? Like get to the root, because it's so much more than, this patch or the healing side of what actually happens, or the the financial side for me that's brought me relief. We say it all the time. It's so much more than a patch. It's so much more than a company. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. You're not either.
Right.
Like, we get to watch each other grow.
Oh, yeah.
Because now we're surrounded by people who have walked through it. Like, when you stop and you pause and you realize, okay, so this isn't working anymore. It worked in my 30s.
Yeah.
Maybe it worked for a minute during the pandemic, but it's not working right now because no matter what I do, I don't feel that nothing's satisfying it. Well, gosh, because I'm performing my way, I'm over functioning, I'm exhausted because I'm so busy all the time. There's no time to be still. Well, now I've learned so many things. Freedom really is deliverance. It's connecting to our Creator who created us to need Him. I'm not supposed to perform for anything at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't want me to perform. He
That
wants
false
me to
identity.
abide
Yeah.
in Him. He wants me us to abide in what that is. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's where you were kind of going with
Oh,
it.
it's
But
100% where I'm going, because I just find that more and more that the freedom is coming out of that performance, because when you have been conditioned and programmed through childhood, through traumas, through survival to be a performer, okay, and you can be a Christian. I don't care. I've been a Christian 30 plus years. Okay, so doesn't, yes, had I died in that place, would I have gone to heaven? Sure. But God is like, there's freedom, and being saved and being healed from those things is two different things. And I think it's that journey that God is, for me, and you, I know, more recent, have been going through that inner healing where you're learning that, like, to come out of that place of trying to perform in false identity and trying to be something we're not, and then resting in who God says we are and who we are. And it has nothing to do, like, so performance is, so the person that's born with a condition where they can't leave their bed, what, do they not have value? Like, that's a human soul. They have
Right.
value because they're creating the image of God. And to me, I'm such a doer. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, give me my checklist and I'll feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And I'm still like, it's not like I get delivered and I never, like, I have to be really purposeful not to get back into performance and back into wanting to check a list so that I can feel good about my flesh, versus like, I'm just enough. Just existing is enough. And it feels vulnerable to be in that place.
Yep.
It almost feels like, no, this is too good to be true. The shoe's going to drop. No, let me get my guards back up. But it's learning to just stay in that place of resting, of being vulnerable. And it's worth it. And because we're talking a little bit about identity as you're healing and you're getting to this place of your own personal freedom. Who does God say you are?
His daughter. I mean, I'm still working on what that looks like all the way on the other side, but it doesn't. I know what it doesn't say right now. It doesn't say that I have to do this, this, and this to be accepted. He doesn't tell me. He doesn't say that I'm not good enough because of anything I did wrong. He says that he tells me that no matter what, he's there.
Yeah.
He's the person that is supposed to fill in the gaps in my soul, in who I am, for my identity.
Yeah.
We'll stay tuned. We'll come back when I'm finished and get through all of that. But, as you were talking, I'm thinking, what does it look like in the world if even 80%, 20% of the population just took a minute to turn off all the noise and look at their performance, their overfunctioning, their bitter roots. Like, isn't that actually what it is to be a body together? To take a minute and just really pause. And total transparency in this process, because I am a doer like you. Like, I mean, if I don't have 60 messages a day, I feel like I'm slacking. Like, people forgot me, like, oh, did I miss something? Did I not respond? Like, but that over functioning, that process of feeling valued because I have to do all that, it's shallow and empty in the end anyway. And it's not getting me to actually what I was designed to do. In the process of walking through this, I realized, how funny is this? I realized I don't know that I've ever actually asked myself, what kind of car would I want to buy because I just want to? Yeah. It's always been the practical choice, the choice that makes the most sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, right. I was raised very practically. But do I actually know what I like?
Yeah.
Do I actually know? How many of us walk around and we just continue to put a check in the box, continue to do what we think we're supposed to do, and get so caught up in everything going around us? That's really the enemy coming in to kill, steal, and destroy, to take our joy, because the joy of the Lord is supposed to be our strength. It is our strength.
That's right.
But it total transparency is where I was going. It feels selfish to do that.
Yeah.
It feels selfish to not respond to all those messages, or to take a time and a moment that I just turn it off. It feels like, but they need me. What if I don't, how will they feel if I don't answer? Well, that's all performance. It's all based from a toxic, back to my childhood, where I felt, and this is not a knock on my family. I have an incredible family. Like, this is by no means, we all do the best we can.
Right.
But we've gone from, at least what I see is, we have gone from a place of, let's slow down and take a minute to check ourselves, to better our characteristics, to become the best version of who we're called to be, to, okay, how many people do we need to entertain, or how many people do we need to pour into? And it's, again, this is not saying we don't pour into people. We always have people in our life we're pouring into. You do that well. We all have people we pour into. But what's pouring into us? How are we filling our cup if we're constantly pouring out? So I don't really know if that was a
That's called burnout. Let's that'll be the next time you come on. We'll talk about burnout.
Girl, I already hit that burnout. My tires are spinning. I'm like, oh, I see the fire.
No, that's not.
But a good place to be. The hope in all of this, and I always want to talk about the hope and the other side of this. When you decide to do the work, it feels hard in the process. It feels it's not. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I would also wish it on my worst enemy, because if you don't do the work, you don't get to the other side of that, which is the freedom.
It's true.
And I don't know that I'll ever 100% be there, because I don't ever intend to stop trying to learn and grow and understand and sharpen each other, like in podcasts like this or conversations like this. But the hope is, we get to keep going. We get to ask for forgiveness. We get to be redeemed. We get to find that freedom as we learn. Words have the power to destroy, but they have the power to heal. They have the power to enlighten. There's nothing better for me than when you just smile at someone and they smile back, because that's just what they needed, was a smile. And you know what? I need that smile too. And I don't know if that's performance. I'm still in this process, but
I don't think so.
That's just sharing a light.
That's letting the joy of the Lord be your strength, and spreading the light. No, but this like, you and I could keep talking, and I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time, and you got to get out. You've got to get out of here with your 60 messages that you got to.
Girl, I don't get them anymore. I put that on silent.
I know, that's right. But no, it's such good, and it's such a journey. And I know, as we get through our seasons where the Lord really comes and gets that inner healing and cleaning out our cups. But hey, we're all works in progress, and probably like Benjamin Franklin, when he passed, I'm sure he still had his list, and I've been married 25 years. Some of the same things I came into the marriage like, okay, my husband's got these struggles, I have these struggles. I have to say, 25 years later, we're still dealing with the same struggles. Yeah. And as much as I'm like, yeah, we get better at things, and we overcome things, and we have great victories in areas. It's not that, because we do. I mean, I've seen my husband overcome some great things, and I know I have too, but it's like, but we still have those things that we're still working on, and that's okay. Like, that's part of this journey. That's
the community. That's the full circle back to the beginning. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
we're called to understand that we need each other. We talk a lot, in the last couple months, I know we've done a lot together that has been just really more community based, more family based. Community is the family that you choose, right? Or the friends are the family that you choose. And I think you start to, at least for me, I've started to see the true importance of the body.
Yeah.
I might be trying to be the eyeball, and I swear I'm an eyeball, but the Lord really called me to be a pinky.
Yeah.
So why am I trying to be an eyeball if you're an eyeball?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like we're called to help each other walk through it and hold each other accountable, celebrate each other in the wins.
There you go. And just rest in who you are, because if you're so busy trying to be another part of the body, it's exhausting, number one. And two, it's like, then it tells the author and perfecter of your faith, Jesus, like, why'd you write this? I don't like this script. Give me their script. And it's like, man, if you just rest in the script, trust the process, trust the story, God will show you all these hidden, Jeremiah 33:3, great and unsearchable things. When we seek him in our stories, all of a sudden, the light bulbs, you get to be told you're the cherry on top, or you're the maverick, or you get to find out these things about who you are and why you're here.
And that it's okay.
Yeah. And it's so, let's just, as we put a bow on it, it's like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have your seasons. It's okay to not be okay. It's the process, it's the journey, and freedom is always on the table.
Yeah.
God is always ready. He stands at the door, he knocks, and
we have the free will to choose.
Well, let's land it on free will, because when you mentioned talking about freedom and government, it's like, at the end of the day, we're free will agents. Like, we have a full autonomy. I get to choose. You get to choose.
And that's where this grand experiment of humanity, that's the part I love landing on that, because I love that we're landing on this, because free will, I have free will to choose, but like you said, so do you. I don't get to take someone else's free will.
That's right.
And the moment I try, that's the overperformance. That's where the enemy wants you. He wants you to be in a mind space, in a heart space where you feel that you actually have the ability to control someone else's free will.
Crazy.
But we don't.
Right.
And what does that look like in politics? It looks like, instead of spending 20 hours trying to research why somebody's terrible, a politician or sitting elected official that you don't like, pick up the phone and call them. And ask them, talk to them, have a conversation. Before you walk into a voter booth, you have the free will to look and talk to those candidates. You have the free will to not vote. You have the free will to complain about every single person that's out there. But you also have the free will to contribute something great toward freedom into your community. So are we complaining about where we're at, or are we excited about where we're going and making a difference?
And being the solution. And that's kind of where I started as I was hitting my season, I was like, man, I want to be in the solution. There's just way too many problems out here.
We got solutions. I know we do.
So let's land it here. But speaking of solutions, today's podcast brought to you by LifeWave X39. And this is a solution that you, my friend, introduced me to. And after church on a Sunday, you shared about this and helped my husband's frozen shoulders, helped me just get through this menopausal crazy time, and so many miracle stories of friends and family that we got. Nana dancing at 87 years old, salsa dancing,
so many.
And we don't, but just crazy good stuff. So
freedom's a choice, and it comes in all kinds of size, colors, and packages.
That's
and
right.
For me, for myself, this patch has been freedom. Not just X39 has brought freedom, not just through what I call cougar in training, is what I'm calling that menopause now. Because I do not receive that M word anymore. I'm a cougar in training.
Okay, there you go.
But freedom from that, freedom from mental clarity issues, just anxiety, whatever you can think of.
Okay.
But then also freedom to now be able to be a single mom and venture out and do things.
Oh yeah, you're making bank.
And then the freedom to have community, to be able to do this, to sit here during the day and do a podcast with you and
not
grow
be a slave
and learn.
to your 9 to 5.
freedom looks funny for everybody, and I know people can't believe it, but this little patch does a whole lot. It packs a punch.
It packs a punch. And listen, it's changing lives, and we'll put some links in the show notes. But yeah, if you're interested, we'll come in and check it out and give it a shot. It's helped so many, and we believe it'll help you. That's what the Lord, pray about it first. Always pray, but that'll be there.
Oh, I know it'll help.
I know it's true. It's true. But don't sit and pray too long and then you forget about it. But thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, I know. I like being in the studio.
Right?
The studio is way more comfy than the not studio.
Than the not studio. Yeah, I think last time we were doing it over Zoom. So yeah, so thanks for joining us today on the Jennifer O'Brien Show. I've been your host, Jennifer O'Brien, with Shannon Wymer. If you want, I'll put her information, maybe your email, if anybody wants to reach out, ask Shannon questions about anything that she shared today. I'm sure she'll be happy to put you on her list of 60 people that she's got to get back to. And maybe she won't. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's not going to perform anymore. Maybe she'll ghost you.
Yeah, it might take me a couple days to get back to you. No, just kidding.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the show today. X39 is the reason that we're able to be here today, man. You talk about freedom that we talked about in this show. You talk about free will. Everything is a choice. Well, I'm so glad I made the choice. And, your choice is yours. Free will is for everybody. But I would say at least check it out. See why we got here. See what landed us here in this moment to be able to have time in the middle of a day on a Tuesday to sit here and talk about X39. X39 has won the Biotech Award last year. That's a global award. And, the testimonies speak for themselves. We don't sell this patch. And, if you're a skeptic like so many people, that's okay. The patch speaks for itself. We don't have to sell it. So go on, do yourself a favor, check it out. If you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, that's awesome too, because we live in a world of free will. But you are free to check out X39.
That's it.
We're going
with
silly.
that one. Oh, no.